Well, I'm going to read to you as some pictures of orbs go by. That is my latest album that I put on my Google albums on my Google profile. And as you see these pictures of the photons of light, that's what I think they are. Pardon, that one got in there by mistake, my chickens. But anyway, let me get on with this, because what I want to do is read to you something that was said by Terence McKenna. I was listening to one of his videos the other day, and he began talking about photons, and I typed it up as best I could, what he said, and toward the end of this it talks about photons, but first I have to tell you this part. He's talking about our universe being like a vacuum fluctuation. And he says this creation can only occur if what's called parity is conserved. What this means is that these particles, which come into being out of nothingness, must come into existence paired with the antiparticle, and so it comes into being. Let's say an electron and an anti-electron, and they divide or separate trajectories, and then they reconnect and collide with each other, and parity is conserved. In other words, nothing really happened. No laws of physics were violated because they annihilated each other. Now, for a while, this was thought to be entirely a kind of theoretical kind of construct. But then it was noticed that the trajectory models of black holes seemed to imply that no radiation could leave a black hole, and yet certain kinds of black holes were observed, vacuum fluctuations, giving off hard radiation in the form of X-rays. And it was realized what was happening was vacuum fluctuations were taking place in the vicinity of the black hole, and because one particle went one way and one the other, the black hole interfered with the conservation of parity. And one of the particles was being sucked into the black hole, and the other particle was flying off into the ordinary universe and being seen by astronomers as hard radiation. So the fact that this process goes on has now been confirmed. Now, an interesting thing about these vacuum fluctuations is that quantum physics places no upper limit on the size of a vacuum fluctuation. Let me resume this. It's not moving. What it says is the smaller vacuum fluctuation occurs quite frequently. Well, then it is it not possible, that the entire universe is simply a very large vacuum fluctuation and falls into something like 10 high 50 particles. And they have poured into the manifold in which we find ourselves in an antimatter universe, invisible to us because it's in another dimension, was born at the same time, and so one went off into a higher dimensional manifold this way, and another one went off in the other direction. And what this sets us up for is the possibility allowed by this interpretation of quantum physics, that the entire universe could disappear instantly, not gradually. You wouldn't see the stars going out because this is all happening in a hyperspace of some sort that treats the manifold as a point-like entity. All particles in the universe would disappear, and the original unflawed nothingness would be restored. Actually, no, there is a further caveat to all this, which is all particles have their antimatter, antiparticle twin, except the photon. The photon is this mysterious particle, which is different from all other particles. It either has no antiparticle, or somehow it has its own antiparticle embedded within it, so that would happen in the case of the universe, which was a vacuum fluctuation, which encountered its ghost image and conserved parity and canceled all particles except photons, is that you would suddenly have a universe made of nothing but light. Nothing but light. And we then have to model the physics of a universe where the only kind of particles that exist are light. Let me go to page 2. Well, it's interesting that all of the traditions of transcendentalism make a big deal out of light. Light is a metaphor for spirit. Get this going again. Light is the metaphor for spirit. And the supposition is that the rarefication of matter and of the flesh releases us into a realm of light. And I am not a physicist enough to say what a universe made of light would be, but I do know enough to say that if you or I were made of light, our subjective experience of the universe would be ruled by relativistic physics, and we would have the impression that we could go anywhere instantly. And we would have the impression that the universe was aging around us at a tremendous rate, because you see that the time dealings of the general theory of relativity, which says that as you approach the speed of light, time slows down. Now it's assumed that you can't reach the speed of light because as you approach the speed of light, your mass, and itonically, I don't know if that's the right word, I couldn't quite make that one out, but your mass increases in that to push a single atom to the speed of light would require more energy than there is in the entire universe. Because this particle would have become so massive that there isn't enough energy to propel it. But a photon never moves slower than the speed of light. It never moves faster than the speed of light either. So the photon, if you were made of photons, and if you were here, you went here to Zenibi Ganubi, let's say, which is a star in our galaxy with a wonderful name, your impression of the travel time would be 0. So here's a way without invoking God Almighty, where physics seems to lay into our hands metaphors for the anticipation of the escalon. And I think, now that I've read that I can get this back on its way to showing all the different ones, I think this light that I'm filming, which is in empty space right here in the room I'm in, I think it is showing us a lot about light. Pardon that picture, it jumped in there by accident. And it's a mysterious realm, and there's many, many of them, because you see all these pictures that are going by. I see this with the naked eye. I used to think it was something just that the glass caused to happen when the light was shone upon a glass marble, because these glass marbles have little air pockets and all kinds of little embedded flaws of a sort within them. So I thought for a while it possibly could be that I was getting. But not anymore, I don't think that, because I see this with the naked eye. I see these kind of things that are going by here. Only I see things that are broader. They're a bigger landscape. When I use the camera to take pictures of this, then inside the photons that I'm looking at, I see some of the things that my naked eye also sees, but not only just in the side of an orb, but just floating around sort of in front of me. Even outdoors in the light, I can see, if I squint my eyes a certain way, I can see little tube-like things moving in front of me. And I know this is very scientific for this fact. It's very repeatable. Every time I look at light, I see this. It's not something that only happened once or twice or a dozen times. It happens each and every day when I look at light. And I'm thinking that what I'm seeing is perhaps something that others will see too, but right now I'm seeing it, and I know that it is important, that it represents some kind of dimension that surrounds us, but not just one dimension. There's so many, because I film the shiny spots of light that reflect off of a grouping of marbles that I have that are glass marbles. I'll show that to you right here. Now you see each shiny spot that's on the marbles becomes an orb when I take my camera, focus in real close on the shiny spot of light. And as I move it around and keep it focused on just one particular orb, I see that it travels about in a kind of a landscape that is broad, that will take me to other portions of it that are in different space in the room. And then the very next orb will have a different scene in it, and it will do the same thing. So there's very many dimensions of light that we're saturated in. Seems to me that we're just swimming about like in a soup. And it seems to me that light is very much like fluid-like. It's watery. It has layers. And all these little circles you see in these pictures. Let me see if I can bring this one up real close, or start another batch. You see this one, you see the orb coming from the light source there, but when it gets further out, it gets rounder. And they do all kinds of morphing into different shapes and everything, and showing what is in the space in the room. Because when I move the glass and the camera with it to another space around the light, what's in the orb will change. And I have many, many albums that show all the various pictures, and I have a lot of videos too that show it in movement, that show the fractal-like nature of light. As you move about in the space where you're getting the orb, as sort of like sort of like binoculars, see something real close and you move it around and you see the continuation of it. And that's what I do with the orb. I use it like it was binoculars that look at this realm of light and many, many realms of light. The colors in them are changing constantly, and there's even little things that travel through them that look like little creatures. I have one special creature that I see a lot with one particular camera, and I've named him because I see him all the time. I've named him Harry. I made a video. I show a lot of pictures of him on that video, and I will post it under this video so you can see Harry. He may be the first light creature that anyone's ever photographed. I think this is very important, this what I am seeing. But I know a lot of people write it off as something that cameras do or marbles do, or they write it off as caustics. Caustics are very beautiful, but caustics don't look like an orb and have the rings around the edges and have movement inside them. But they are very beautiful. I've taken pictures of caustics many times. And I know it's not Newton's rings that I've been told, because I see all this with the naked eye. Of course, no one has to believe me, because they would have to have faith in me and know me that I don't make up stuff to believe that. So I don't expect that anyone would just believe me unless for some reason they do. And I know I've heard some people say some pretty crazy things also that I couldn't believe that others have said. And they might be perfectly real and true to them anyway. But I just want to get this out there, that we could be traveling into a world of light and becoming light ourselves. It's very interesting to contemplate. I'm about out of time on this video, so I will end it now. This is the Dove Lady, over and out.